Hey there, everybody. Good morning. It is Friday morning, April the 3rd, a few minutes after 7 a.m. Central Time. My name's Thom Rigsby, and this is your daily briefing for business owners and leaders as it relates to all things coronavirus and maybe some things that are not related to that. Got a great interview with Kristin Scroggin from Gen Y Communications coming up today. We got an update on the numbers, and we're going to talk about these SBA loans just a little bit. So, grab your cup of coffee, sit back, and let's get started.
This is 7 Minutes in the Morning, where 5 days a week you get tips and hacks dedicated to helping business owners and leaders just like you find and break through the one thing that is preventing your success. And now, here's the host of 7 Minutes in the Morning and your results coach, Thom Rigsby.
Well, hello there, everybody. Good morning. Happy Friday to you. Looks like we might have made it through another week. My name is Thom Rigsby. This is 7 Minutes in the Morning, the show where we usually talk about how to start, grow, and enjoy the benefits of business ownership. For the last couple of weeks, we've kind of, let this COVID thing take over, and we've turned it into our daily briefing, things you need to know, actions you need to take, and all that stuff related to how, as business owners and just leaders in our families, leaders in our communities, what should we know and how should we be responding? If this is the first time that you are joining us, thank you so much. I appreciate that. If you would do, as the regulars already know to do, whether you're watching live or on the replay, go ahead and leave a comment, say hi, hello, good morning, how you doing? I do my dead level best to get to every comment. This is being multicast out to lots of different locations. We try to aggregate as much back here, but sometimes I can get to them live and sometimes I have to get to them in the comments. So as with all things right now, a little bit of patience and grace is appreciated, and we'll get to those things as we go. All right, so I know you're all riveted here waiting for the chart update, so let's get to that. We're still just kind of holding steady right now. When it comes to this rate of growth number, this is the number that we've talked about a lot here, right? That even as you can see kind of depicted on the chart, looks like a hockey stick. Well, that we know for a fact that it can't continue to look like that forever, because kind of worst case scenario, there's only 326 million people in the U.S. So at some point, it's got to kick over and flatten out. We are monitoring this very closely for you so that we're trying to find that inflection point for two reasons. One is because it'd be very good news. Two is because that's our sign as business owners that it's almost time to get back to work. We need to start making those plans and get ready to reboot our business from kind of just puttering along here. So that's one of the things that we're looking for, is that inflection point. That this on a daily basis, yes, yesterday this number went up, and these numbers are as of the end of the day yesterday, Greenwich Mean Time. It's about 7 p.m. here local time. So they're going to differ from what you hear other places this morning. The point is not whether they're 100% accurate at this moment. It's that we are being consistent in how we are looking at them so that we can get consistent answers. We also see the number of recoveries continuing to grow, disproportionate to the number of deaths. So the number of recoveries is growing at least as fast or a little bit faster than number of deaths. That's good news. And I also wanted to share this chart with you again. And as I've been really fond of saying for the last couple of weeks, context matters, right? We can take any number out of context and make it sound really good or really bad. So that's why I like to share this chart too. When we normalize, we hear about the U.S. has more cases than anybody else in the world. Well, yes, that's true based on the raw numbers. But if we normalize those numbers for population, we can see that as a per million in population, Spain has way more cases than we do. For every 1 million people in population, they have 2,400 cases. Italy has 1,900 cases. We have 400. So yes, the raw number is really big. And if nothing else, this shows us how much context matters. If we just look at the raw numbers and say, wow, we've got a lot of cases. Yeah, we do. We also have a lot of people. The other thing to bear in mind, we've heard this repeated over and over, our numbers are going to be higher because we're testing more people, right? So really, all of this is to help you have some context to have conversations, right? We need to be talking to our suppliers. We need to be talking to our team. Whether they're still working or laid off, you still need to be talking to them. And we need to be talking to our customers. Of course, I shared the story yesterday of one business owner who sent out an email and got 3 or 4 phone calls right away. It's like, oh, I thought you were closed. You got to have these conversations, folks. If you are not, then you're missing out. So one of the things that we get tripped up on a lot is, well, what do we say? I know, okay, I hear you. I need to have these conversations. What am I supposed to say? So I called on one of our local experts, Kristin Scroggin, to help us with this. Now, Kristin has a company called Gen Y Communications. They do a lot of intergenerational communication and how, when you have a workplace that's got 3 or 4 generations in it, how do you make all that work? So I had a great conversation with her yesterday. I recorded that so we could play it back here this morning. It's not nearly as long as our tape from yesterday. This is only about 10, 15 minutes long. Stick around to the end. I'll hit briefly on what's going on with the SBA. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and do that now. And then we'll hit this interview with Kristin. Today's the day where the P3 loans, you can apply for the P3 loans, the payroll protection, I forgot what the third P is, but these payroll protection loans that we talked with Kristin Strickland about yesterday from Bank Independent, today's the day that those are available and you can begin applying for those. I've also heard, so if you haven't talked to your banker already, get on with it. Now, if you know for a fact you don't need the money, if you're in an industry that's blowing and going right now because this is giving you an opportunity to work, don't apply. Leave it there for the people that need it. But if you have any inclination that you might need these funds, go ahead and apply. Worst case scenario is actually pretty good. When you don't need them, you can just pay them back. Okay. The other thing, the EIDL, Economic Impact Disaster Loans, these are the 3-day $10,000 advances. I've heard a lot of mixed information coming back on those. I have not found anyone yet who's gotten theirs, but be that as it may, a lot of people have been calling because there's no way on the website to check on it after you apply for it. This is the streamlined application that went live Monday. It was supposed to be, 3 days after you apply that, you get the funds. Several people have called the hotline to try and get an update. They get mixed information. So I have a message out to LD Ralph. He was on the show with us last week. Try and get some clarification from him. I'll check on that while the interview with Kristin is playing, so stick around to the end. I'll tell you what I find out. Look, hang in there. As I said in the beginning, a little bit of grace going to go a long way with this thing, right? We're all trying to figure this out together. All right. So now, with that out of the way, I'll go ahead and re-segue this. What do you say when you're talking to your suppliers, your team, and your customers? Here's my interview with Kristin Scroggin from Gen Y Communications. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I have joining me, we are social distancing. We're doing this via Zoom today. Kristin Scroggin, owner of Gen Y Communications. Is that right? Gen Y?
That's right.
All right. There's tons of places we could take this conversation, but I want to start with maybe an easy question, or maybe it's a hard question. Why is there such a disparity between how the different generations are reacting to this, and almost this inability for one to understand the other? That's not a complex question, is it?
Yeah. Gee, I'm so glad that you've given me 3.5 hours of time to talk about this today, Thom. Um, yeah, so it really comes down to roles that each one of the generations play. Each generation has sort of their own avatar, for lack of a better term, and each one of these have different levels of adaptability and roles that they've played in society up to this point. And so, when you've got a group of people like baby boomers and traditionalists who have been trained, like the mantra for them is, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Right. When you look at this generation, you say, hey, stay home or this will kill you. That's not in their cultural DNA.
Right.
So so you've got some level of the archetype of each one of these generations that we see coming out. And part of it's just the nature of who we are.
So, okay, so that kind of begs this question then. If the boomer says, toughen up, buttercup, right? Then why are they having such a hard time with the kids going to spring break?
Okay, so this is a great point. So one of the first things that I hear, and listen, when I go take walks around my neighborhood, Thom, the number one people I see in cars driving around are 65. Every single person I see in a car at any given time in South Huntsville is over 65. Yeah. And so every time they drive by, I'm like, what the heck? You're the one that has the highest chances of contracting the virus. Why are you out? And so we were talking about this, and I was talking about this with some of my friends, and it comes down to patterns. The older you get, the more entrenched you are in your daily patterns. Right. And so if you have been getting up and going to work at 6:30 in the morning for the past, 27 years, then your brain goes off to get you up at 5 o'clock to take a shower regardless. Right. And then also for those people who have retired, they built schedules into their day so that they don't feel like they're alone all the time. So on Tuesday at 10, I go to the post office. At Thursday at 11, I go grocery shopping. And they're deeply, deeply entrenched in the patterns. So in the same way that it would be difficult for a smoker to break their habit of every time they get to the third stop sign to light up the cigarette, right, they have to establish brand new patterns. And that is extremely difficult.
So that's a good explanation, and I appreciate that. So one of the things that we've been encouraging our clients and contacts to do, is stay in touch with your suppliers, your team, and your customers, right? Just right. Let them know that you're still there. I had a conversation with a business owner Monday and said, hey, have you had a chance to send an email to your customers yet? No, I haven't sent them an email yet. Ouch. Well, you need to, just to remind them that you're here. And so I talked with her again today, and she's like, I sent this batch of emails at 10 o'clock. I've already had 2 calls from people that said, I thought y'all were closed. Right? So right. There's this need to communicate, this need to stay in touch, and especially with our team and our customers, right? Can be such a wide range of these archetypes in the workforce. Mm-hmm. How do I craft a communication to them that's relevant to them without having to write everybody a personal email?
Wow. Okay. So let's go after team first. Okay. So when it comes to team, my suggestion would be to use video chat softwares as much as possible at this point in time. When you are doing a lot of emails, here's the problem with emails, and you know this is true because all of you have had this. If you already have an issue with somebody, or you think they don't like you, or that you feel like people are mad at you all the time, then no matter what someone writes to you in an email, you read it in their tone of voice and put your feeling of their emotion on it. Okay. So the good thing about doing things like video chats is that you bring nonverbal communication back into the question. People can see when you're actually joking around. They can see that you're calm and you're not freaking out. They can see those sort of things. And so whenever things get stressful, you've got to go to face-to-face. And Thom, we've been telling the people this forever, right? We've been saying, don't fire people over text, don't fire people over email. Like, grow up and bring them in your office and have a face-to-face conversation. Right. Same thing here. It's tough. And people don't want to do that because, number one, they don't want to change out of their pajamas. But the fact is, we need FaceTime. We need it. And if you talk to companies that are all virtual at this point, they'll tell you that they have weekly all-hands meetings through something like Zoom or Easy Webinar or Skype or Google Hangouts, whatever your preferred is. They do that because you need to be reminded that there's a human on the other side of that screen. Yeah. A human that has dogs barking in the background and children who are screaming for peanut butter and jelly, right? Yeah. Yeah. You can't forget in this stress that there's humans on the other side. So being able to have that FaceTime is vitally important. So I would say as much as possible. Now don't overdo this, and this is where we are right now. Because we've been having a meeting at 8 on Friday since the dawn of time, we're now calling a completely unnecessary Skype meeting at 8 a.m. because we've been doing it forever, okay? So there's one level of that we've always had a meeting, and so we feel like we need to have a meeting. That's increasing our meetings, virtual meetings. The other side of this is, in particular, when you get to boomers were trained under the concept of management by walking around. The number one way you know your employees are working is you walk around, okay? So you can't be walking around right now. So how on earth do you know your employees are working? You make them give more status reports. And so what we're seeing is people who have been managing by management walking around are asking for more Skypes, more reports, more of those things to prove that their employees are working. Not necessarily because they're interested in communicating, team building, strong culture, reassuring the team. So what I would say is use your Skype meetings for good, not evil, right? You are never going to get this video thing, to replace the big brother watching that you had in office. It's not going to do it. So you got to figure out, do you trust your people? And let them do their thing. And if people aren't losing it, then let them do their thing. I saw you writing right then, so I don't know if you have a follow-up question to teams, and then we can switch over to clients in a second. But yeah.
No, I do. I think that we've been talking and kind of chatting about some of the changes that this crisis is going to by necessity. For example, we've had to implement these video conferences. Is that something that's going to persist? Does that become the new normal? And I've suggested for a long time that it would require a generational change in management, as you said, to kind of transition from this management by walking around to management by outcomes and objectives. But now that now that some of the more, I'll call this experienced managers, have seen how this, outcomes-based management might work, do you think that's something that's going to stick around for a while?
I think here's my honest answer to that. COVID-19 has been like a giant Band-Aid that we ripped off and pulled all the hairs out, right? Exposing all the ugly nitty-gritty for everyone to see at this point in time. And there have been Gen Xers and millennials, which we would count here as basically people 50, 55 and below, who for years have been saying there is zero reason for me to come into an office and sit and work. I sit at the same computer. I log into the same server. Why on earth am I coming? I'm losing hours of commute time with my friends and family. I can't pay attention to my health. We're losing so much time. So here's what I honestly believe, Thom. You've got all these Gen Xers and millennials, thousands of them. P.S., by the way, way more than there are baby boomers and traditionalists, okay?
Yeah.
And if I work successfully for 3, 4, 5, 18 months from my house and I'm getting everything done and we're not missing a beat, forget you if you think I'm coming back into your office. Right. Forget it. So what I think you'll see is a huge amount of Gen Xers who normally never take a stand because we can't afford our house, right? We're indebted to our eyeballs. Right. We're going to look at those people and say, forget it, not doing it. you take me like this or you don't take me at all. Because any company that's got any brains at this point, if they see it successful, they will keep that and they will count it as a benefit.
Yes.
And Gen Xers and millennials will go, woohoo, I get to work from home. And so if you make me come back in, and especially if it's not government secure, right? If it's just, insurance, forget you. Absolutely not.
So
I'm not coming back in.
One of the things, and I mean, we're only a couple of weeks removed, but people kind of forget this. Before all this craziness started, we were down around this 2%, 2-3% unemployment. We were looking for things that we could do to distinguish ourselves to prospective employees that would make them more willing, more likely to come to work for us. And so I think your thought there that this is going to be the new normal for a lot of people, and people in my generation and younger, they're going to say, look, dude, to think that I can do my best work between 8 and 5 inside these 4 walls Monday through Friday is just a ridiculous assumption.
Absolutely.
I might have a great idea at 9 o'clock at night, and now I need to be able to capitalize on that.
Absolutely. If I work better at 9 o'clock at night and my work better than I do at 7 o'clock in the morning, why do you care about me being in at 7:30? Be focused on the quality. And the problem is that this is just such a shift from the idea of we own your hours and we'll use those hours however we darn well want to, versus we own your human capital and your intellectual property, and you are gifting us that. We're paying you for that. And it is a fundamental shift in the way that we will see employees. Are they bums that we can make them go schlep and do whatever we want to? Or are they intellectual property that we have to do everything we can to hold on to?
Right.
I mean, the companies that figure it out will be the ones that survive. And quite honestly, the ones that refuse to change, they'll go under.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
it's
kind of rough, right? For me to say it that way. That's part of why Gen Y has been successful, though, is that we've just come in and said, look, you can take all the information and flush it, but it doesn't change the patterns that we see in society. And anyone who's ever listened to one of my presentations at this point has heard me say this already. It's coming. It's just now it's here.
Right.
It's here.
Right. This just forced the issue for us.
Ripped off the Band-Aid.
All right, so let's talk about customers. How do we communicate with customers right now?
Okay, so overwhelmingly, we've seen that people who are 45 and below prefer video also. However, I would not suggest doing a video chat. I would suggest sitting in front of your Zoom or whatever and recording a nice, professional, high-end, hi, we're here for you. We're open for business. We care about our customers, and we want to be here for you. And then you take that and you dump it into your HubSpot or your MailChimp or your one-to-one email, and you reach out to each one of these people. And the other thing I would tell you is this. If you don't care about your customers and whether they're surviving right now or not, and they can't feel it in every word that you say and every word that you write, why should they keep working with you?
Right.
So have that conversation of, look, we're concerned about your friends and family. We want to make sure you're surviving. We are interested in you as people. If you don't care at this point, they're going to notice, because so many other companies do care, and they're reaching out and saying, we want to keep our relationship with you.
Yeah. Well, look, I said earlier this week on the radio, every business is a relationship business. And if you don't reach out to your customers right now and let them know that you're thinking about them, then they're going to begin to understand you the way you look at them, which is transactionally rather than relationally.
Exactly.
And if the extent of our relationship is just transactional, I can take my transaction somewhere else. No harm, no foul.
Darn right.
Right?
Darn right.
But if you're the one who is remaining doing the work now, a lot of people say, well, what can I be doing now? Now's when you need to be talking to those customers and the prospects. Right? And saying, hey, just like you said, hey, we're here. We're concerned about you. We can't, maybe we can't help you directly right now, but here's some things that you can be doing at home in the meantime. I mean, whatever communication is. But let them know, do that top of mind awareness work so that when it is time to come back, guess where they're going to come first?
Darn right. Well, and even like if you're providing them links to great resources that you found over the course of the week, there's no reason you can't do a weekly email, regardless of what your company is, of here's the top 5 coolest things I found out this week.
Right.
And, for example, with the SBA loan stuff that you've got right now, you've got a lot of suppliers who still count as SBAs. And, to be saying, have you filled out this? Have you contacted your bank? Have you talked to have you filled out this particular form? Deadline's coming soon. Having a little bit of that, even if it's outside of what your actual industry is, caring about that company and whether that company stays alive, and giving them tools and resources, directing them to webinars, making sure that they know about any kind of free trainings that are online. Help them boost the soft skills of their employees. If they can't do anything else, they could be training in soft skills right now. So any kind of resource that you can point them to is going to add value. So like, for example, at Gen Y right now, nobody's doing conferences right now, Thom. Ain't nobody going to do conferences.
Shocking.
Okay. It's pretty much against the law in every single state. Okay. So I've been very, very blessed. Every single client that I've had has moved to another day. Nobody's asked for a refund. We've been very, very blessed. But here's the thing. During this time, I'm going to provide them with as much free resources to help their people as I possibly can. I'm going to train them how to use virtual softwares. I'm going to talk about conflict resolution. I'm going to talk about how do you come back stronger as a person after crisis. The more that I can give you things that will help your humans, the more interested you are in coming back to me once those floodgates are open. And so I'm not doing it necessarily with the intention of give some, get some, but it's just the right thing, the kind thing to do to help people right now. And that's how I can help.
Well, and I think that those are the things that that people recognize, right? I mean, top of mind awareness is important. We want people to remember us, to be on the lookout for us. But more than anything else, it's the right thing. And if you do the right thing, people recognize it.
Absolutely.
Woo, excuse me. There went my corona.
Bless your baby heart.
People will recognize that, and they'll reward you for it, either with their dollars or with their referrals or just with their continued relationship.
Well, and my perspective is, okay, so if for some reason this does take me under and I lose my business for this, if I stay in front of and help and assist other companies, they have a much better shot of hiring me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So at the very least, if I do go under, at least I would have been a kind and good person during this time, and it increases my shot of getting a jobby job somewhere else.
There you go. All right. Well, Kristin, I appreciate you being here and taking the time. Give us what's your one big takeaway that you think is most important as a business owner or a leader? What do we need to know? What do we need to be practicing, working on right now?
My number one tip for you
intergenerational or just communication.
Leader, if you're a leader in any capacity, if you lead even one person, you need to become the most positive person in the history of the planet right now. Yeah. I don't care if you need to listen to podcasts, read books. I don't care if by nature you're a grumpy gills. Right now, people need to feed off of your energy, because that's what real leadership is about. It's setting the tone and the direction of the team. And right now, people need your positive, even when you're delivering tough news, positivity, when you do that, is vital. So don't have an ugly look on your face when somebody's kid runs in. They can't control that. Someone's dog starts barking. Don't be like, oh, get your stupid dog out. Come on. People are doing something they've never, ever done before. Right. Extend grace. Grace to your people, grace to yourself, right? None of us, we've never done this before, ever. Be positive. Fake it if necessary. Be positive.
That's a great encouragement. Kristin, where can people find out more about you and see some of the resources that you have available?
Yeah, tons of resources. We're doing free webinars 2 a week right now. If you go to www.genwhy.com, that's GENWHY.com. And then if you click on free webinars, You will see, gosh, there's probably 7 or 8 of them up there right now. Also on the YouTube channel, you can go to YouTube and click in Gen Y Communications, and you'll see us. You can find us on Facebook. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk to you more. Any social media, Instagram. I'm not kind of Instagram and all that much right now. But LinkedIn, and making sure that I'm getting out resources to you. The other thing I would push you to do is this. If you think this generational stuff is fascinating, you have got to go read the book, The Fourth Turning. Okay. I cannot push this hard enough. It is by William Strauss and Stuart Howe. They're the originators of generational theory. And y'all, they've been predicting something like this since 1997. So you'll see that we've always been in a loop. There's nothing new under the sun. This just happens to be our time, and we can either look at that and use it for good to advance us, or we can let it take us down as a culture. So definitely check us out, Gen Y Communications, GenY.com. And super excited to be able to be back face-to-face with people again soon too.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, Tom. I'm always there for you, buddy.
Thank you. Hey, so thanks for sticking around through that. That was my conversation earlier this week with Kristin Scroggin from Gen Y Communication. A couple of things that are notes, takeaways from that. And I'm just curious, leave a comment wherever you're watching, Facebook, in the group, on the page, on YouTube, anywhere you're watching or listening to this. Have you reached out to your customer base yet? And if you did, tell us a little bit about that. How did you do it? Did you pick up the phone and call them? Did you text them? Did you email them? And then what did you say? What were the things that you said to them to when you made that outreach? I mean, I'm interested in hearing that feedback. I do think that there are, and this will be one of the interesting long-term things that we want to keep an eye on, but how does this change things on an ongoing basis? Do we do more of this remote video stuff? As Catherine said in the comments, there's just, or maybe she mentioned it, I said it, but at any rate, there's just something about meeting person to person, face to face, but we can get so much more done remotely. And think about it this way. If you are running a local business, let's say you're doing app development, right? That most app developers have figured this out already. The likelihood that the best app developers are going to be in the same place that I am is pretty small. But if I can work remotely and get the best from around the world, around the country, around the state, whatever the case may be, now I've got a much bigger pool to pull from. All right. So just something to think about. The other thing that she said that I wanted to bring up was about, if you're a leader, we're all leaders. We are at least leaders of one. Right? I can be a leader of me, so I can choose to put the most positive spin on this possible. All right, during that playback, I did get an update from LD at the SBA, and I'm just going to read you most of what he said. I reached out to him earlier this morning because over the last 24 hours, I had a lot of conflicting information. This was the big thing I wanted to talk to him about. A lot of conflicting information about the economic impact disaster loan, the EIDLs, the $10,000 advance on this P3 loan. The understanding generally was that it was supposed to be available 3 days after you applied for it. Again, grace, people. And so when calling in to follow up on that, people are getting different answers. So here's what LD had to say about that. The SBA has brought in outside private answering screeners as well as 500 FEMA employees detailed over to the SBA to help with the call volume. Imagine that. The SBA is getting a lot of calls right now. So really, no surprise on a wide variety of answers. You also have to take into consideration this stuff is still... some of it's still trying to be figured out. Yesterday, Kristin Strickland on yesterday talking about these P3 loans. Well, guess what? Guidance changed overnight. So the little details, but there are some questions that the banks had that Treasury had to answer, and so some of that is still being figured out. So further, he goes on here to say, guidance on the P3 loans was re-released to lenders just last night, so don't expect to walk in today and get money. Lenders will have a learning curve, take time to get familiar with the policies and procedures. Grace, people, and I understand. Believe me, 100% I understand. When the cash flow is tight and you got people you're trying to pay, or maybe food you're trying to buy, you want some people to extend grace to you too. So that gate swings both ways. All right, that's it for today. Hey, listen, don't forget, if you've reached out to your audience, I'll probably put another post about this in the group. But if you've reached out already, how did you do it? What did you say? What kind of response did you get back? I also, by the way, I left a comment or a note in the description for today's show about a new resource that I found. If you're local to Alabama, it's alcovid19.info. If you are a stats, numbers, and charts geek, you'll like this site. Got all the latest numbers with charts and graphs and maps and all that stuff, so be sure and go check them out. And if you get a chance, tell them that you heard about them here. All right, that's it for today. Carrie and Samantha are picking up the show over the weekend. Be sure and tune in for them, support them, as I appreciate them giving me the opportunity to rest a little bit over the weekend. You guys have a great Friday. If there's anything I can do for you, website's down in the lower third there, ThomRigsby.com. You can always call me, 844-234-8466. 8466, by the way, spells Tom, so you only have to remember the first part, 844-234-TOM. All right, you guys have a great Friday. I'll talk to you Monday.